Okay. I would like to call the August 13th meeting of the Deschutes Public Library District Board to order. Welcome, everybody. I'm sorry that I can't be in La Pine with you. So we will try to muddle through this meeting with me doing this remotely. I apologize for my absence, but I didn't want to miss the meeting because we've got a lot of important and exciting things to cover tonight. Did people have a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Let's check on, yes, you're correct. Sorry.
What?
You're doing great.
Okay. Did people have a chance to look at the consent agenda? All I can see is the ceiling right now, so I don't have a view of the room.
Okay, that means we got the wrong camera on.
Okay.
Let's see. How's that?
That's better. That's perfect.
Okay.
All right, let's do that. Okay, well, wait a second here. Okay, great. Okay, did folks have a chance to look at the consent agenda? And we've got one set of board meeting minutes from July 9th, two work session sets of minutes from July 21st and August 1st, which those covered the orientation sessions, and the district disbursements. Did anybody have any additions or corrections to those?
No.
If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. And this is, yeah, so we'll do the motion in second first.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, Todd, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, okay. Michelle.
Here.
Now I just need a.
Yes.
I or me.
Aye.
Okay, here.
Aye.
And Laura.
Aye.
And Becky. And Ian.
Yeah, aye.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Next up is public comments. Since I can't see the room, are there any members of the public who are present who would like to address the board?
No, and we do not have anybody
Online, it looks like.
online.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we will close the public comment section then. And first up is a really great education piece that some of us have heard before, but I am really excited to get to hear it again because I think it addresses a lot of the questions that we get about our new facilities, and it makes us better informed about all the planning and work that's gone into our early learning spaces so that we can talk more intelligently about it and share what we have learned with others. So, Todd, do you want to introduce this?
Yeah, okay, excited to have Chandra with us. Chandra vanEijnsbergen.
Good job.
As a Dunkelberg, I feel like. And Chandra, as I'm happy to say, is just celebrated a big anniversary with us. It's that 25 years, right?
25 years.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Congratulations. There's a young gentleman that used to work with us that was on the interview panel.
Yeah.
And that was me. Yeah. But really a big piece of this is there's a lot that goes behind all of our early learning spaces. And it's one of those that if you don't know it, it's deceptive about what's going on there. And it's really exciting now that we have places in play to see how this is playing out. So I'm gonna jump over to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking me to be here, Todd. Some of you guys have already seen this, and for other people, it's new. So yes, I am Chandra vanEijnsbergen. I am the Youth Services Supervisor. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about early literacy, what early literacy is, and then how that has informed the discovery spaces that we have created in all of our renovated libraries and then going into Central as well. So just to take a really brief step back, what exactly is early literacy? When we hear that term, I think people don't always understand what that means. Early literacy does not mean teaching kids how to read when they're really young. Early literacy is a foundation that needs to be built, just like the foundations of a house, so that children are ready to learn to read and write when they actually get there. So there is this whole host of skills that have been identified for kids to help them be ready for school and to learn how to read and write. We know that pre-COVID, about 40% of children started school with skills about 1 to 3 years behind. Post-COVID, that number has been exacerbated. It's more like 60 to 70% of children are beginning school with their skills 3 to 4 years behind where they actually should be. So we see ourselves as the public library as a place where it is very, very important for us to be helping our community to increase those skills. Okay, so this is a little bit about brain development. So here, these are brain scans of children. This is at birth, this is 6-year-old, and this is at 14 years old. So we know that children have far more synapses in their brain than adults. When they are born, their brains look kind of like this. There is so much room for growth and for opportunity. So learning happens when these different nodules actually connect, these what's called synaptic connections. So you can see between birth and 6 years old, look at the density of that. Babies and children are making so much connection. It makes sense. They're learning about the world. They're learning about their senses. They're learning about people. They're learning about communication. They're learning language. All those things are happening. So it makes so much sense that their brain looks like that. By 14 years old, you can see that there's already less density, because even by the time they reach that age, the brain kind of sloughs off the pathways it doesn't need to use. So in order to continue progressing and learning, the brain preserves itself and says, oh, that's not a sound in the language that I currently know and learn. That's not a sound that I use. So I'm just going to kind of ignore it, and those synaptic connections go away. So part of what we're doing with early learning is trying to keep as many of those connections and as many of those pathways current as possible, which is why we do things in a variety of formats, whether that, print, auditory, tactile, physical movement, but then also the, different types of things that they're doing. Everyone always says, babies are sponges, and yeah, they absolutely are. This is a PET scan of a brain. So part of what we want to do is just show how, when we interact with children, the different ways we interact with them light up different parts of their brain. So this one is when they're hearing words, now seeing words, speaking words, and generating words, which is like thinking about creating language, thinking about different words, how to create sentences. That's how it's a little bit different than speaking words. And so you can see each of those lights up a different part of the brain. So again, when we're thinking about early literacy, when we're thinking about what we do in story times, in programs, and also the spaces we provide, we're trying to provide as many of these different opportunities as we can to keep those synaptic connections going and enhance. Okay, so knowing all of that, There's been a lot of research, and there are 6 early literacy skills that have been identified as really foundational to children being ready to learn how to read and write. We're gonna go through them really quickly. So the first one is called narrative skill. So narrative skill is the ability to tell stories, to retell stories, to put things in order of how they work. So if you ask a 2-year-old what they did yesterday, it's not so much what they did yesterday. It might be a dream they had. It might be something that they're going to do in a couple of days. You know, the story isn't exactly linear and makes sense. But when you start to talk more with them, or when they get a little older, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, they have learned how to describe events and tell stories, you know, in a chronological fashion. The next one is print motivation. That is literally them wanting to engage with print and with literacy. The main way that we do that is by making it fun. In story time, I'll have parents come up and they're like, they don't want to sit. So I force them to sit for 20 minutes while I read. And they're like, oh, please don't do that. Let them play while you're reading so that you're making it fun. They're still listening. We want them to have joy and be interested in engaging with print. Print awareness is literally that they understand that print means something. Of course, they don't know that that squiggly stuff they see all over the place has any meaning whatsoever. They've done studies with children where when you're reading picture books, before they understand what print is, they think you're reading the illustration because they don't understand what print is. So a lot of that is pointing print out to them, providing them with opportunities to play with print, to play with shapes and letters. Vocabulary, knowing the words of things and understanding the meaning of them. The more words that kids know, the better off they will be when it comes time to actually read or write that word, because they know how it sounds. It helps them sound it out. Letter knowledge, that letters mean something. It's not just print, but that each individual letter has a sound, or in English, 12 sounds or not sounds, and you know, all that stuff. And that they can look different, the difference between capital letters and lowercase level or letters. We won't even talk about cursive. And phonological awareness, and that's the ability to hear how language is broken up. So the different parts and phonemes that make up words and make up languages. One of the best ways to do that is actually through singing. Because if you think about how we sing, twinkle, twinkle, little star, twinkle, twinkle, little star, each phenome actually has a different note. And without realizing what we were doing, for millennia, we've been singing to children, and that is teaching them how language works and breaking down the phonemes in language. So those are the 6 early literacy skills. Then there are 5 activities that work on those 6 literacy skills that we encourage families to use and are kind of the foundation of what the experience we have tried to create for them. And that is talking, singing, reading, writing or drawing, and playing. So, of course, talking is such a great way to communicate with your child. You are giving them information about the world. You can narrate your day. They're learning vocabulary. You can sing with them, which is that phonetic awareness. Talking is incredibly important, and we all know, we don't have to talk down to them. Just having those conversations, having them hear the bounce and flow of a language and how conversations work is really important. One of the things that we also really try and make sure to encourage with families with talking is it is more important to talk with your children in the language that you are most comfortable than to only speak English with them. We know for many families who are coming there, they worry that they are doing a disservice to their child by not speaking to them solely in English. And I really try and encourage families to speak with their children in the language that they are most comfortable in. Not don't speak English, but It's so important for children to hear you speak in the language you are most comfortable. They will learn the words, they will learn how it works. In their first year of school, they may not test as well in vocabulary, but multilingual children, as they go along, their vocabulary actually exponentially increases because once they make that connection, they actually know far more. So we just try and honor and support those families in making those decisions. Singing, we already talked about. It is a natural way for kids to experience language and to hear it. Reading, I mean, you know, as library people, it's what we think everything is about. To read to kids, it's really important. It does all of those things. Writing and drawing. It says writing, I like to say drawing because sometimes people then get really kind of freaked out about, oh, writing, they have to learn how to write. No. Drawing, scribbling, they need to understand that they can make the words. So just the scrawling with the big, huge crayon is a really important first step to them being able to create their own language. One of the ones that is the most important, but I think sometimes people don't think about, is play. Play is learning. It is how children learn about the world. We know that as they play, they are using their imagination, they are increasing their narrative skills. So here we have, wait, do we have the kitchen here? We have the kitchen mobile cart here. And so the kids are playing with the kitchen. What are you doing? I'm making dinner. What are you making? Tonight, I'm making steak. They're learning how to tell a story. They are learning vocabulary. Play is learning. However, another really big part of play is gross and fine motor skills. We have, on occasion, had people who say, why do you have a playground at the library? Well, first of all, it's not a playground. It is a discovery space. But children actually need to use their physical body to learn how to read and write. They cannot manipulate a pen to write until they have fine motor skills. The other one that people often don't think of is they need gross motor skills, because you can't learn how to write if you can't support yourself not leaning on a table. You need to be able to sit up straight, move the rest of your body independently in order to write, in order to turn pages, to do all those things. And physical play is, of course, one of the best ways for kids to do that. So those fine motor skills, but also those gross motor skills. So in our early literacy story times, what we are trying to do, and all of our stories are early literacy story times, everything we do in our programming is based on those 6 early literacy skills and the 5 activities. We are modeling to caregivers the activities that they can engage in to try and increase those skills. We're highlighting early literacy practices. We are intentionally seeking books that present mirrors, windows and sliding glass doors. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And everything we do is based around those early literacy foundations. So why are our discovery spaces important? Play is a crucial part of early childhood development. We know that not everyone in our communities has access to the same resources. So we feel so responsible as the library to try and offer a playing field, no pun intended, for all of our community to be able to use to gain those skills. When we created our spaces, we're also trying to create spaces that encourage communication between caregiver and child. So when a child is playing with something, the caregiver asking them questions about what they're doing, they're having that conversation, they're building those skills. It's also social emotional, because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but like children are not great at sharing, obviously, like right from the very beginning. So another thing that happens in our early learning discovery spaces is they're learning to share with each other, which sometimes involves some screaming and temper tantrums. But again, that's a natural part of them trying to figure out their world, how to play with one another, how to share things, share resources, how to work together. So, and of course, the fine and gross motor skills. All of those ideas have gone into every decision that we have made about the items that we created for our discovery spaces. For example, these are just some of the ones that we have in our district. If you don't know the lingo, these are called mobile carts. And they're mobile because, you know, we can push them around, and we just call them carts because we thought, you know, they look kind of. So the first one, this one is our ABC one, wordplay. So this one is all about print awareness, letter knowledge, vocabulary. It is also fine motor skills. So the way this one works is there's a little thing at the top where that they can turn to show different images, and just literally that turning is fine motor skills. Everything that is on that image can be spelled in both English and Spanish with 5 letters. So then they're selecting each letter individually to spell it out. This bottom portion here, these letters are indented. So part of what they can do is that they can trace the letters, which is the, like, learning shapes is the first part of letter knowledge and understanding how to. These are also hoppers, so they open and you can put extra toys in there. So we have like letter blocks and other things that are in there. The next one is our kitchen play. As I said, that one works a lot on narrative skill, but also vocabulary, because as they're playing with this, they are reenacting stories that happen in their everyday life. This third one along is balls and tubes. So that one, you might not think about it, but that one is also about narrative skill, because part of narrative skill is the ability to make predictions and to understand sequencing. So with balls and tubes, there are different places for the kids to put a ball in, and they don't necessarily know where it's going to come out. It may not be obvious that, of course, that is going to come out here. Well, no, it doesn't. When you put it in there, I actually don't know which one it comes out of, but you know, it's not like a straight shot. So part of this is them trying to, you know, figure out that ability to predict. It's also fine motor skills, because they need to be able to hold balls, be able to put them in there. When we created these carts, we were thinking of the gamut of children that are in our community. Each one of these is not always for just the early learners. So there are definitely some of these that are for toddlers. There are definitely some of these that are for like toddlers and preschoolers. We do have some cards that are not meant for the toddlers and preschoolers, that actually meant more for school-age children. So they might not be working so much on the early literacy foundations, but they are still working on learning foundations, but they're not intended for the littlest of the littles, because we wanted to be able to provide a variety of experiences for a variety of ages of children that come in. And then we have other, yes.
They would like to see the first 2 parts on the last slide are
Oh, the balls and tubes and kitchen,
the
or wordplay and kitchen. So yeah, afterwards, if you would like to go and see them, they're actually really, really cool. Also, the way we made them, I think, is the board. You guys already know this, but the way we made them, they are made to be interchangeable with other branches. So after a while, once one community has had a set of them, we can exchange them with another mobile card that we can fit slots into all the same things. And so we're expanding our reach in that way. So there's a couple of other things that we have. We have these things that we call trailheads. Some of them have interactive questions that we can change out that are asking the child and caregiver to engage with our collection. So for example, we might have a question on there that says, what's the silliest book that you can find? Or find a book about a flying mammal. So it's getting them to engage their brain, but also engage with the collection itself, them and their caregiver together. We also do have ones that are for our littlest littles. So we have mobiles like up there. There is one of those here as well. And these little landforms, like it has mirrors. Babies just just love mirrors. They love looking at themselves. They love looking at other babies. They're polished steel, right? Yeah. So they're not like actually mirrors. They're polished steel, so they can see themselves, but they're not breakable. Then we have all these things down here. These are called landforms. There are a variety of them. I think we just call this one the squiggle, I think, you know. These are, as I like to explain to people, they are intentionally slightly unstable, like all of us. They are designed for kids to move themselves, but not be so light and easily movable that they chuck them. Kids definitely stack them up on top of each other and then stand on them. Two of them stacked together and stand on, that's okay. More than that, it is actually really unstable. But even if you step on just one of those, they're allowed to do that. We want them to use their physical body on these things. So if you stand on them, they are ever so slightly unstable. They're not rock solid. The point of them is if they're sitting on them or standing on them, that it does have some wiggle to it. Because what does that do? It engages their core muscles. It engages their ankle, those little tiny ankle muscles that you have, that you really actually do need to strengthen in order to, you know, progress with your physical growth. The squiggle is very unstable, but they're all low to the ground where kids can take, well, they are not taking a calculated risk. They are kind of pushing their autonomy in the choices that they have and exploring, and they might feel unsafe sitting on one of those because it rocks a little bit. But as they play with it, they'll become more confident, and that's what we're looking for. We want them to explore these in all the different ways that they can to increase their own confidence and increase those physical skills as well as the early learning needs. This is one of my favorite ones. It's like this big C. It's actually sitting right over there. That thing it becomes a table. People put it sideways like this and lay in it to read a book. They turn it upside down so like it's a boat and it can rock, or they kind of lay in it. So the whole point of these is for them to move them, to use their own autonomy, and to be physical with them in a way that is safe and allows them to learn. Okay, one last thing, because it's my soapbox and I have the opportunity, I always make sure to talk about one of the other things that is really, really important to us with early learning and early literacy, and that is the idea of representation, why it matters. And this is Dr. Georgine Sims Bishop. If you have not read her essay called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors, I highly encourage you to read it. It's very, very short essay. When you say essay, you make it think like it's really, really long. I think it's 2 pages. This is a tiny URL to it. So she wrote it back in the 90s. And the idea is that we want to present children with windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. So, or mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. Mirrors, they can see themselves. They can see themselves represented in books and in media. If children do not see themselves represented, they cannot know what is possible for them. Windows is the idea of children being able to consider perspectives and lives that do not mirror their own. One step beyond that is the idea of the sliding glass door, which is the ability for children to experience, to like open that sliding glass door and step into the experience of somebody who's not like them. We do that with books where they can relate to a character, but there are still things that are different. Might be a different culture, might be a different country, different set of circumstances. But this idea of windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors is central to pretty much everything we do in youth services. All of our story times, we are trying to make sure that we have a balance of that. With our collection, it is the same thing. We try with our collections to make sure that what we are doing is representing the world as a whole. This is takes a second to fit. This is an infographic from 2018. It feels dated because that's a lot of years ago now. Things have improved slightly, but they haven't improved all that much. So this is a snapshot of children's publishing where 1% of books published were about American Indians, First Nations, 5% Latinx, 7% Asian Pacific Islander, 10% African American, 27% of books published were about animals, and 50% of books that were published were about children that are white. They obviously have mirrors. Other kids did not have mirrors. White kids did not have sliding glass doors to experiences that were other than theirs. Things have improved a little bit, but there's still a long way to go. Okay. I have one other, and then we'll have time for questions, but I just want to talk just a little bit about a program I am super, super excited for us to be starting. You may have. I feel like everyone else is sitting not. You are welcome to have one. You want Okay, so there is a national program called 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. And the purpose of it is to encourage families to read at least 1,000 books with their kiddo before they reach kindergarten. A couple of years ago, we were going to start that program, and I ordered a whole bunch of the journals. And then we were looking at it and we realized it's just in English. It feels, and all they had for Spanish language speakers was a log that you could print off. And it felt icky. So we decided to create our own. I worked with Tina Davis, who I'm sure you guys have heard from before. She worked with a designer to create this. Oh, is this just the cutest thing you've ever seen? And we wanted to call it something different. So we've called it Ready to Read 1,000 Books Together. So this is a bilingual journal for families to use together to read 1,000 books. Basically, the way it works, it's right there. Is that, okay, starting in September, we are hoping to start this with our fall storytime session, which will open, I think, the week of September 8th. Families can pick up one of these journals. They read books. For every 100 books read, they come in, bring this into the library, and they will get a different incentive. And the incentives, we're incredibly lucky. We're using our state grant that we have to provide some of these different incentives. And they're things like those juggling scarves, or an egg shaker, or a little finger puppet. One of them, I think it's like for 800 books read, they're actually going to get a hardcover book. When we were choosing the incentives, we deliberately tried to choose things so that they could actually do their own story time at home. And then when they reach 1,000 books, they will get a backpack to be ready to go off to kindergarten. It's really, 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 really cute. We will also have an online version on Beanstack, which is an online, we use that for summer with the library as well. We use it for the adult winter reading challenge. So if people don't want to use a physical book, they will be able to track things on Beanstack. And also in them on Beanstack and in here, it's not just reading. There are different activities for them to do that we're encouraging them to do. And then there's also like early literacy activities to encourage them to do. And then also things that are like every couple of pages to help with those things. So we're very, very excited. We will be doing these both in branch and at outreach. So we have a strong connection with like Head Start, Neighbor Impact, Mountain Star, and we'll be promoting it through there as well. That's a lot of information. Being representatives from the branches. What questions does that bring up? You know, it's okay. You don't have to have any. If you do, yes.
So is this a program that you primarily provide in different libraries in-house in the libraries, or is this the program that you also give to other locales?
So our the discovery spaces kind of idea,
Well, the discovery spaces I could see would be hard to translate.
like the literal things. Yes. Yes. So everything that our early learning librarians do has this as our basis. They have done, we've done trainings for parents. We've done trainings for Head Start teachers. We've done trainings for like different moms groups where we will come out and do an in-depth early learning training where we're teaching them the information that we shared with you, but then also how can you incorporate this into your daily life? And so we'll teach them songs, we'll teach them different ways to be. Parents and caregivers are their first teachers, you know, so very much so. We take this out with us. We also have all the ideas behind the discovery spaces we've created, but when we choose like these manipulatives that we will take with us. For example, one of our early learning librarians does an intergenerational story time in Redmond at this really, really cool preschool that is in a retirement, memory care place. It's called Whoopsie Daisy.
Thelma's Place.
Thelma's Place and Whoopsie Daisy. So they're connected with each other. So she goes and monthly does a story time with the preschoolers and they bring the memory care people there. And what she does is she brings like physical manipulatives for them to do together. Because studies again have shown how important that intergenerational is and how great it is for seniors in memory care to have that kind of social interaction. So yeah, and we're always like, if you are like, ooh, I have maybe an idea. Todd has my email. We'd love to hear. We're always looking for opportunities to get out and reach the community and teach people about early learning and how they can use it in their own lives. Yeah.
Seems like a pretty robust program. Has the library system always had this sort of a focus?
Early learning has always been really, really important for us. I would say that the person that I replaced, her biggest focus was absolutely early learning. And I was a librarian underneath her and we learned so much. It has been, I would say, for the last 25 years, DPL has been really, really strong with early learning and early literacy. It's really, I mean, nationwide, it is something that libraries feel so deeply about, but yeah, it's been really important to us. Not that the rest of it isn't important, it is.
That's where you start, right?
It is where you start, right? Yeah.
Is it Chandra?
Chandra,
Chandra.
with the hard CH,
Chandra.
it's a,
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, I commend you on identifying something that you don't like and then solving the problem.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I know, so proud of the team.
It's something to not just accept what is given.
Yeah.
I'm curious with what is like the thinking behind the video games and how it fits into the early learning space?
Yeah, video games are definitely something that is very interesting. Video games are hard, TV is hard, screens are hard. We know that up until a certain age, it's best for them to not, which is, why we don't use them in the ways, there are lots of libraries that use them much more extensively. It is something that families want and ask for throughout, our entire time here. Video games is very interesting. If you look at the theories and the research behind video games, it also lights up different part of their brain that uses like that spatial awareness problem solving in a way that a lot of our other things don't. I think it has a place in it. I think it is one of the pieces of the puzzle. And that is actually pretty important. The video games that we have, we select them because they do have some educational component as well. A lot of them are. What is the word when they're from a book? Characters, the characters and things like that. Yeah.
I've just heard kind of a heartwarming story from one of our newer staff who, her parents came from Mexico and she has vivid memories of coming into downtown library. And to use these computers, and it was a connection for her that where she could one work with her family and understand what's going on if she wasn't.
Yeah.
Connection for, and also it's a tough one because. I know a lot of families, like, they have all the screens at home.
Yeah.
We've all seen it, like, no, you know, do this and I'll give you your screen time. But there are other kids in the community that don't have that. And so it's a really tough one for us to say, we can't just take it away because a family that has all those things wants a place where they don't have it, where there are other families. This may
They
be a
don't.
learning connection.
Yeah. We hear that a lot from people who don't have it at home.
And we've had those in our children's spaces for over 25 years. Which is interesting as we remodel. People, the same games and same computers that have been there, they're in a different spot and all of a sudden they're very aware. It's very interesting, like nothing changed for 25 years and functions around with showing up.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can we talk about this for a minute, or do we need to move on, because it's also.
No,
Right.
that's great.
A couple of thoughts on it. One is, I do think like 25 years ago, it's much harder to access. students. And the New York Times actually came out with a really great article recently that I really purchased to right, about kids now are losing the ability to hold on for parents. I don't think much to read that, but one of the things they pointed to was actually screen access is more prevalent in lower income families now. And lower income families use screens as like babysitters out of necessity. And it's actually like the more wealthy families that limit screen time. And I think there are some current concerns that I have about the immediacy of the video games in the children's space, where it's much harder for a child to make a decision to not go to the screen if it's right next to all of the beautiful books and the wonderful, modules that you have. Whereas if they were still accessible, if someone needed it, but if they were in, with the another computer area where the choice could be made to go to them, I feel a lot of parents that I have heard from would appreciate that as a way that it's still accessible, but maybe not so much of a what is that word, like serotonin kind of like, yeah, it's a perspective.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that the
Sorry.
sorry. I think the challenge in some of the smaller branches is the limitation in real estate within the branch.
Right.
To be able to separate some things, and I think the staff has made some really thoughtful decisions as we move through the design process to try to address that issue. I mean, I think I've seen changes in some of the facilities that have reflected that, but I know it's always a challenge.
I think Redmond is a good example of a space where we have the space and it's actually like, it is a little bit more separate. In the smaller branches, yeah, it is more difficult, but yeah. Sorry, I cut you off, Em.
No, I really appreciate, as always, I mean, I've heard this presentation several times and I get so much out of it every time. I pick up on new things and I think this is one area where the staff really has done an exemplary job in translating concepts into the physical space in a really thoughtful way that benefits the kids in our communities. So thank you for that, because I mean, there's so much underlying just when you walk into the children's area and see the things. I mean, all these layers of meaning aren't always apparent.
Yeah.
So it's a great, I really commend you for this presentation. I think it's just excellent.
Welcome. Yes.
I want to echo what Anna said, like, it's just so heartwarming to see not only what you do, but the enthusiasm they have for what you do, and it translates in all of this. And we're so fortunate to have people that are so passionate about really understanding and using that knowledge to serve our younger population as well. I'm curious if you have any thoughts, because, you know, I think so much time and energy, also whatever extra time and energy you have, probably not much, has been devoted to creating these spaces that we have in each of our branches, and our models and our new builds. And then as we look to the future, and just looking at the statistics that you shared about literacy readiness, pre-COVID and post-COVID, and a huge gap, that's, I mean, 40% is huge to begin with, and then 60 to 70 is massive. If you have any thoughts, if we look forward to how we could, and it, you know, again, it's not our responsibility, but it is for such a resource to the community. We have so much knowledge and enthusiasm that we could help to bridge that gap. And you don't have to answer me right now, but I just, do you?
There's a couple of things that our early learning and school age teams are looking at. So when we start with this ready to read, part of what we also want to start is a series of programs about kindergarten readiness. Parents have no idea what those standards are. They don't, and even if you were like, oh yeah, no, I know there's standards. If you went online and tried to read them all, they're not easy. They are hard to understand. So part of what we want to do is provide an opportunity for parents to come with their kids to a series of programs where we're talking about those things, where we're trying to educate parents on what are those standards, what are the things that they should be working towards, and then working in all of these things and the activities that they can do at the library, but then also at home. But it doesn't stop there. You know, as kids are in elementary school, yes, there's kindergarten readiness, but then there's third grade, and then there's and then it keeps going. And so our school age team is talking about, you know, how can we work as a team within our community to try and increase those third grade reading scores. Not just reading though, it's also math. So one of our librarians is starting because math starts really, really, really young. So she's going to be doing an early literacy math-based program, and not just in Bend, but she wants to, you know, bring it out to the branches as well, where she's working on those math sequencing, patterning things again to scaffold it up. And then our school age team looking at what they can do that are around those different criteria, those different standards with both social, emotional, but also the curriculum and how we can try and help support that, but especially for early learning, trying to help parents understand what they are and then create a series of programs where they can actually work on that. So, yeah, they're all passionate about it. We've got great people. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I just, again, I really wanted to express my appreciation for all the work that went into this and for the breadth of this presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's just outstanding. And I'm excited about the new program as well. That sounds amazing. Next up, we have our bond updates, and it starts with an update from Miller Hill Architects about updates in our downtown Bend design. And Matt is here from Miller Hall. Todd, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, and first of all, I'm glad Matt caught the tail end of Jim's presentation, because Matt and his team really, we brought these concepts to them early on as we were developing our libraries, and you could see how they were able to, them along with the other architects we have, plus and greater than, design all of these elements into the libraries, which is, it's really cool. It's kind of funny because we had that presentation, we designed it, we built it, And then Chandra came back and did the presentation again. I'm like, this is fascinating. This is almost like our spaces. I reminded myself, oh yeah, because I'm bringing Matt, or we have actually, the board has already approved the designs for the downtown Van Library. As a staff, we were looking at it and analyzing our children's area downtown Van and realized that we had designed it so that we were gonna have less books in the children's area than Redmond, which is, they're both comparable sized buildings. And so we're really concerned about that. So what we asked them to do is take what we formerly had, which is storytime room and makerspace, and see if they can combine those to a flexible youth programming room where we can do makerspace type activities or have a story time and free up some space for the collection. Which the good news is, Matt's going to kind of describe what that looks like, but this is a significant change from what the board approved earlier, so I just wanted to get your approval for this. The good news is, by doing this, we have managed to, it looks like, have basically get back up par with the scale that we had in Redmond, which is really good. So I will stop talking. Matt, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Great. It's good to see some familiar faces, and I think there might be a few that I haven't met in person, but I'll start to share my screen. And that was an exciting program, Chandra, that you shared. It'd be great to get a backpack for kindergarten. So awesome. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start with where we left off at 100% CDs, or kind of the final design that we finished off, where Todd was describing the story time, the dedicated story time and creative room that was located on the ground floor, right off the kids' primary library areas. And so if I zoom in here, and my mouse is, of course, not cooperating. Zooming in, what we had was two separate rooms that were divided by a modern fold door panel system that allowed us to divide the rooms into two separate rooms, or retract that modern fold door into this little closet here and either expand the creative zone or expand story time into one larger programming room. And previously we had kind of all the chairs and tables that needed to be stored located in this storage room at the southeast corner of the building. Off of the creative, we were providing a wet room to wash hands and other elements if a creative program was held in that creative room. We could wash up there, and then providing an ADA accessible family restroom off of that space. We were always keeping the study room on the ground floor right off the lobby as well. So when we look at kind of the revised design, I don't know why my PDF is being slow here. We took the former creative room and made it a youth programming room, or relabeled it as the youth programming room. And you can kind of see that the old modern fold door was along this grid line here. So it is kind of a slightly enlarged in scale to that former creative room, and that this youth programming space could be used for a story time or creative programming for however DPL wanted to kind of use the space. Within that space, and maybe I'll zoom in. I have a larger floor plan here. I'll start over here. Okay, within that space, we still have some amenities within that room. We previously were showing cubbies as well as creative carts where papers and other supplies could be stored within the room. We have a bench along the window here, and then that utility sink that we formerly had off to the side in a separate room, a little wet room, is now being relocated almost similar to a location where there is a current sink in the Brooks room. The restroom also reverted back to the former location of the restroom. However, it is being enlarged to accommodate all the ADA accessibility that we're required to have. And then we tucked in another storage room off of this creative room to make sure that we're accommodating all the foldable tables, and we're estimating that we would have about 6 of those, as well as the stack of seating chairs. And this stack can accommodate 38 chairs. I'm not sure we'll have that many there. There was no changes to the study room off the lobby, sorry. So then the former space that was dedicated to the story time is really opened up. There's no more glazed wall or enclosure here. It'll just allow for the library stacks to kind of spill into this space. And then we're really using some of the walls to provide wall shelving. So you can kind of see all along this north wall here, some shelving. We also have relocated 2 of the kids' computer stations onto the south wall of this space here. And it's also flanked by some wall shelving. So those previous computer stations, if I go back to the former plan, were located kind of in the more early learning or younger kids' library shelving areas. And so we're now thinking that the library shelving for the younger kids are on this west side of the building. And then as you grow in age, the older juvenile fiction and nonfiction would be located on this east side. And so what we've been studying is really, there's a language of wood wall paneling that as you enter the entry vestibule, both of these walls are flanked with wood panels that kind of wrap around. And you see a similar expression of them along the elevator core and then wrapping around here, which this wall is currently providing the curriculum crates storage there. And so we're taking that wood wrapped paneling and wrapping it around and all the way around into this new shelving area. So I think the next slide I'll show you is a very early graphic of what that's going to look like. So there's the study room off of the lobby. This is the smaller enclosed youth programming with the cubbies and the carts, the creative carts that can be pulled out for different activities, the bench underneath the window, the utility sink, the door to the restroom, and the storage room, the new storage room here. And you can kind of see that that expression of the wood paneling will now come across this youth programming with the doors and then wrapping around with like kind of getting a sense of kind of built-in shelving on that north wall there. Okay. And you can kind of see how there's a similar expression to that wood wall, similar to some adjustments that we are making to the curriculum crate wall on this west side. Maybe I'll stop and see if there's any questions regarding the plan. I do have some slides related to the thoughts that we are having and the studies that we're doing on the shelving configurations and some early counts as to how many books we are able to get with this expanded kids area.
Does anybody have any questions for Matt?
I'll just say I think it's a great solution. And I'm curious with the glass, with the windowed wall, is that gonna be frosted or is it totally?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right now, we are, previously there was a similar expression of this glazed wall into both the former creative room and the story time. And I think we were thinking of it as all clear glass. But I know that have been times where we've talked about having some privacy. So we could put a film on the glass if there was a desire to have some of that programming more kind of separated from the library, the larger library space.
Yeah, and part of that is, that's one of the easiest things for us to do. A good example is this wall, we actually will be putting some glazing on it. And part of it is we wanted to get in them and see how the spaces are being used, knowing we can come back. And a big one for us for wanting to be able to see in is a lot of times in our previous spaces, the buildings were so walled off that a lot of people didn't know those spaces were there. And we kind of want to advertise them for people to book them, use them. I don't have a straight answer on that one because it's in a kid's area. Like, for example, here, we have a business meeting going on, kids playing over there. It's nice to have a little privacy. So that's something we'll actually be putting in Sister Center in time, and I'm not quite sure what we'll want to do here yet.
I would say even if it's possible to do like a height, just as a parent who gets very distractible,
Yeah.
you know, being able to focus on a story. Ways of being
Yeah.
So I think we've used a couple different terms. This is the creative maker space and the storytime space. So the setup
Yeah.
and tear down, having multiple times a day potentially.
Well, so that's one thing we've discovered from Brendan is for younger children and children, they're not as involved in makerspace for dads using a bunch of different complicated equipment. A lot of what's happening is things, and actually in Sisters of Pine and Sun River, this is the makerspace. So it's similar to this. It's like when we just program in something, we roll the chairs out, roll the tables, set them up. All the tables would be these kinds of tables are really easy and flexible to move. So that's kind of the model.
Just to speak to that as like a program person, you know, so much of what we do with it's like what Todd said, it's a little bit more crafting than true makerspace. So anything that we need, we can bring in, and it's not as much like machinery, but there's definitely stuff. Could be the button maker,
Yeah.
but or coding things. But it doesn't take a huge person.
I just am picturing Reddit and how like that 3D printer is
Right.
a huge distraction of having.
No,
the same
not
space
see
every time.
Yeah. No, it's and it would be stuff that we would bring in when we're using it as a game space, so that it's not that.
Well, I think there's also a fine balance between distraction and, as you said, letting people know, A, that the space exists, and B, that exciting things are going on within that space that families might be interested in joining in if they knew it was happening. And because, I mean, I know it's been a big trend in modern library design to have a lot of those glass-filled spaces so that people can see what, you know, not just books are going on in the library. There's all kinds of other activities that are happening that they might be interested in. And then I've toured a bunch of libraries nationally and internationally, and a lot of times dedicated meeting spaces seem like they're being used for other purposes, like people are going in and using them as quiet spaces to just sit and work or read a book. And this is more in adult areas than in children's areas for sure. But having that glass allows staff to see in and to make sure that, you know, people are behaving appropriately within the space when they're not being actually used for a program. So there, I mean, there's all kinds of considerations that go into this, but yeah, it's nice to have the flexibility to have it start as one thing and then as needs arise, be able to modify as we have in the other branches.
My other question is, as you've seen with the makerspace at Redmond, huge demand in the beginning, very popular. Has that leveled out a bit, or is it still very popular? Still being built out? That space could become kind of more full-time makerspace, and then not have enough availability for storage.
I think the answer to that is, yes, very popular. We are also balancing out the fact that in Bend, you will have an adult makerspace and a children's makerspace central library, where we could concentrate the majority of our programming, and that is fully dedicated to that. Where this would be probably not as extensive. If we were going to go that extensive, we would have the kids.
And just to clarify that, so even here, there would be a separate adult use.
No,
Yeah, so there, it would all be central.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, we have the ability to do makerspace type programs in buildings. It would be like doing one here, where we would take over or bring in resources.
But I think it also makes sense to direct people to the central library as the main hub of resources. That's logical.
The only thing that will kind of forward in the theory where that doing something, if there's something into that space, I feel like an incubator for this or something like that. One more quick question on the maker space, like how do you envision utilizing the maker space and the story time space together? How many story times are there a day or a week typically would be held in that space?
So currently the downtown Bend Library does, sorry, do quick counting. I think 6 a week.
A week.
And so, you know, we have 3 librarians who are doing all story times throughout the district with support of some trained PSSs. So a lot of what we're doing is looking at how many we will need. It will probably be at least 4 or 5 still in downtown Bend. The majority of our story times are in the morning. We do try afternoon ones, sometimes those work, but generally story times work really best in the morning. So again, that's an easy way. And this is, you know, it's a youth programming room, so it's actually not just the CL2, but it's also our events, where we have one of our event staff who does a family program. So they'll be using that space as well, but as also our school age team, after school programs, and things like that. Yeah, so I think it will be a well-used room. I'm not super concerned about not having enough space. If something else was, if we wanted to do something bigger, or let's say something was in there, there are also the community rooms. So if there was something else we wanted to do in this new programming suite, we could, as staff, book one of the community rooms and have both of them going at the same time. They weren't, you know, like the same audience. So,
And then for the maker space portion of the programming, what do you envision that will be invited to downtown Bend? Just not specific programming like come big as red houses, but it's not an open like we have. Correct. It's open from 2 to 5 to do whatever it is. Okay,
I think that's our vision for the downtown Bend Library, is that when we're using it as a creative space, it is because we are doing a specific program, not come in and, you know, who knows where we'll be in another 5 years, but that's how we envision using it, especially.
Fully admit, we are at the very beginning stages of our makerspace journey. Because with Redmond taught it is way more popular than expected. And a lot of work we're doing right now is figuring out how can we support that? Because it's more than we expected, and so we're having to figure out how we can do this.
So, to your point, there's like 3 to 5 cards.
Yeah.
Under these cubbies, that can hold like craft supplies, origami paper, beads, yarn, 3D doodler pens, all kinds of stuff that it can be rolled out at any time. We just not being say, hey, it's time to doodle, let's do it.
we keep one word at real time library.
And it's exactly modeled on that. Chicago Heights and River don't have maker spaces, but they've got these creative cards that they can roll out and
They get used.
yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any additional questions for Matt or staff members present?
I think Matt's gonna tell us a little bit about what that means to the porch.
Yeah. So this is a diagram of the existing shelving that we had at the end of the design phase. And as Todd alluded to, because we were dedicating so much floor area to that story time and creative, we really were looking at the shelved volume count that was much lower than the comparable sized Redmond library. And so what we started to do was kind of build off of that previous design, knowing that we were going to move more shelving into this area that was formerly the Storytime room. And so what you can see in this diagram is everything that is colored shelving was what we previously had in the design. And then we started to try to densify the shelving just so that we could get the shelved volume count higher. And so wherever you see a white box of shelving on this floor plan, you can see that we added some even in the central area, just densifying and providing more shelved book space there. But then obviously the bulk of it is in this new area that was the former Storytime. So we're getting, we're looking at the similar kind of shelving configuration so that there's some consistency in the design. But when we calculated the number of books in this configuration, we're starting to get the same counts that we have at the Redmond Library. And then we're continuing to work with Emily and seeing if there are even tweaks that we might do to even densify it a little further. Some of these kind of large arced shelving configurations aren't the most efficient. I mean, in some cases, they create space for you to kind of peruse and even like sit down on an ottoman and kind of look at a book. But if the goal is to really provide more books, there's a little bit more study that we can do to just provide additional shelving area for that larger collection that is desired. And so that's going to still be the next phase of kind of updating this design. And we'll work through it with DPL.
Great.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot.
absolutely.
Any other questions or comments before we look at a motion? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I do want to, oh, sorry, I did something. As far as a motion, what we're looking for is approval to move forward so that we can ask the design team to actually start working on this. This will have ramifications and cost ramifications because it's going to be, they'll have to redesign systems, looking for new places for vents and outlets. So there will be some redesign costs. which at this point, I'm just asking for the approval to have us start working on that. We will definitely be coming back to you with some cost approvals.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion. If anyone was so inclined to make one. To me, well. This is the time to recognize and make changes like this. I mean, I'm glad that staff and the architects noted this issue at the stage that they did, rather than when we were under construction. So, which is always more costly. So if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll go ahead with the motion to approve the overall updated design plans and major components outlined in the architect's presentation on the downtown bench facility remodel. And I second the motion.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you, Matt. Always good to see you.
Yes, good seeing you all. Thank you.
All right. And next up, we have Greg with the owner's rep report.
Good to see all of you again. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff that is covered actually tonight from a cost schedule standpoint. Schedule wise, Central Library being the primary activity of going on and moving along, right, tracking to our schedule, both in construction and also in the preparation of all of our FF&E, so our shelving system, manufacturer and fabrication, as well as all of our furniture procurement, our early learning, as we've talked a lot about, it's being a lot of big components are going to be shipped to the job site coming up here in September. So we want to get an inside building before we close up our access windows and stuff. And so those things are all moving right along. Our artwork, with John Grotto, the sculpture is progressing really well. Team went up to inspect it, make sure that it was what we're purchasing. We're happy with that. So schedule wise, that's moving. I think overall big picture really good. Construction schedule. Kirby's moving to a different stage of construction up there. What I mean by that is that we've really gotten through all of the structure complete. We've gotten through all of the skin, so the exterior walls, all the roofing systems, all of that. All of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, building systems that, really run our environment in a building, lighting, are substantially complete. CEC is, as we sit here, is installing our final transformer, which gives us our permanent power to the building. We've had power through temporary facilities, but as I left the job site, I watched our new transformer and the crane that's set and it drive in. So by the end of probably somewhere around midnight, it'll all swapped out. So that's a huge milestone for us. With our MEP systems, you work for months putting it together, all of the parts and pieces, and there's literally miles of pipe run through that building. Probably seen in some of the pictures there. A lot of it is now full of water, under test, checking the pressure, checking leaks, and all of that kind of thing. And get ready to go under our temporary power started a lot of the equipment, so the pumps that can run all of that can pump all the water through the system, whether it's for the cooling and heating system or for the domestic waters. We're moving out of that heavy construction into what is finished construction. And it's a major milestone, and it's where we really want it to be at this point. Between this last 5 months of August through the end of December, Today, when we walked out through there was drywall, they were taping it. Painters were there painting in places. The tile guys are in getting their mud beds all ready and they're gonna start setting tile. So it's moving to that finished state. You can really feel it. We walked through and the raised access doors. There was three, so we would go up and down little sets of stairs. And there's one that goes from the main lobby into the staff area. And today we just walked straight through. Right? There was no step. And it's like, where's the step? It's gone. Because the floors. So it's a really big transition. Externally, we went from all focus on the building to an enormous focus on the site. And Kirby literally picked up their entire operation, all their trailers and staging, and moved it. And they moved everything all around on the site, reorganized it. And if you look out there today, the main parking lot, there was nobody parking, construction park. It is wide open and excavators are in there digging holes and trenches and putting in light poles and final catch basins. Site concrete is being poured every week, more and more. They're just starting to wrap around the building. So it's just like on the inside, there's finished work. Well, this is the exterior finished work. Sidewalks in the closet, we're gonna work on. The shade structures are up in the air, so you can see them and envision them, all the retaining walls. So it was a really big point for us that, okay, we turned a major corner, headed home at this point. So, and it feels good to me when I look at it. We walk around and does it feel right? Are they producing what they should be doing? They create detailed schedules and it's on paper. And it's like, yeah, is that what's happening out here? And do they mesh? And they really do. They're doing a good job. I think the other thing that goes kind of with schedule and the building is quality control. Our team is made up of a lot of designers who are looking at it, as well as inspectors, quality control people that we've hired who are out there engaged with the team. And Kirby's own team, they've built up a good sized supervision team to really get in and monitor the quality of the work that's going in, making sure that it's done right. Because one of the big killers of time is when you build something wrong and you've got to stop and tear it apart, it slows down the entire train of every cell it's supposed to come from. So we're seeing that process is working really well. So it gives me a lot of confidence that our schedule is working and we're tracking to it, and they're going to be done from the end of December, ready to turn over and let us start filling the building with shelving, books, and desks and people. So from a schedule standpoint, very comfortable and confident that we're moving along as we should and where we need to be at this point. With downtown Bend, we're in a phase right now where signed the GMP, released Kirby to go on that. But they don't actually start construction until next spring when we vacate downtown Bend. But we got about a 9-month period where the team is literally working on getting shop drawing submittals and procurement done, buying materials, get them ordered, and get them delivered. So the integration of that plan that we just looked at is impacting what are they going to be doing. And we're in plan check phase right now, permits. We don't need a permit for 9 months, so we're not rushing. So we're actually able to implement these design changes prior to getting our permit final, so that our final permit set will be based on these changes. Kirby's subcontracting, while they've got subcontractors selected and aligned and subcontract out, they haven't bought any of their materials yet. They haven't actually built anything. So we can go in and look at, we're deleting some glass, but we're adding some drywall. It's pluses and minuses. So, you know, as I looked at this design change, relative to budget and schedule, implementing it right now is the ideal time. I think that we are gonna be able to, there'll be some level of cost, we're gonna definitely have design fees to do that, and that's anticipated in our contingencies, you know, of why we put those contingencies in, because we know we're gonna spend it at something. And this is one of those. So that's gonna help capture that, but it's a good timing in our schedule for that. And it's simply because we have a lot of buffer. But it lets us really set it ourselves up to advance that quickly. Ultimately give the district exactly what. Schedule, those are the two primary things that are out there, and so those would be in one. Budget wise, this month, as you saw, there was an increase in the budget because of interest earnings that we got, and we talked about that in the past. It's just the benefits of a thriving economy and investment there. So that raised, there was a couple of small things, you know, most of that money went into the reserve contingency, increasing our contingency. Didn't really allocate anything out at this point. We'll be doing that here in August, definitely looking to reassess the overall budget. It's generally when I'm trying to do it, it's August. Just aligns with a number of things that are going to be. There's one switch in the budget where we moved some art dollars from downtown Denver over to Redmond. And it's just that as the art committee really looks at it, where pieces of art are being placed throughout the district through all of the libraries, do we have the dollars in the right place? So that was just a line of shit, how we're spending those dollars. Very minor changes budget wise, this month, the next spending one. Nice to know. You know, I think as far as design activity, it's really what you saw today. North Holland Steel, they're always dealing with little design issues, but you know, through the course of construction, is this fitting, is this working? What is part of real construction administration? And so that's always ongoing, but this one last piece of design today, that's really primary focus, our design work at this one. So not too much else to be wise. Overall, on the three branches in Redmond, there's not a lot of changes. Also, my notes, it's really cleaning up any, or just looking through any warranty issues and any minor modifications. Stuff and monitoring how the buildings are going. So not a lot of investments. It's things like the insurance and the funding withdrawals, those are all progressing in the processing. No news has been between those firms, and so that's really kind of a good position where we're at on that. Did put photos in there. Hopefully they were opening up for everybody. I don't know, they did get that first thing to work again. It's not working. Yeah, I'll have to try and work on that. I don't know if anybody else is.
I'm trying today.
Yeah.
I don't, and it's fine. I don't know if I just did the other. But I don't know, just give you a little longer window.
Okay, that's good to know. We'll look and see if there's a way I can change that. So it's kind of what we're having the report of this past month. I did want to spend a little bit of time and talk about some things that are going to be coming up. Unless there's any questions about what is in the report and where we're at, you know, through this past month. If not, there's a few things. One, next month, I'm going to have a knee replacement surgery, and it happens near the end of September. So I'm not planning on having a lot for the board at the October board. But I am gonna have a lot at September board meeting because I told everybody, okay, if we don't get it done now. That means it's not getting done until November, which then you hit the holiday season thing. Relative to like authorizations, where we're, so August is usually the month where I really go back. Take another hard look at our budget, look at, we have dollars allocated to the right spots and how is our spending going, what do we think it's gonna happen in the future? And what types of things we want to have as far as adjustments. So there's a number of things that are gonna happen in September. So it will be a busy month of authorizations, and some of them are gonna be fairly large. You know, we talked about on downtown Bend with Miller Hall, we've been working through a schedule adjustment on their contract. And that is because we bought their contract 30 years ago. And we changed the sequence and the schedule of how we were doing downtown Bend. And so, and it affects their costs, like how much time they have to commit to the project and how they have to staff it. And so that has gotten finished now. You know, previous budget adjustment, I moved the dollars from contingency into their soft cost line. So it's not so much that you'll see a big budget change, but you'll see a big authorization. We'll have the design dollars that we talked about today for this design revision. Those are some dollars that will be in there, and then just an overall update in their contract. That's all getting worked through this month. Finalized, and that'll come out. On downtown Bend, on GMP. One of the things that we did at time of bidding is we had a group of alternates that we wanted Kirby to price. When we processed the GMP approval, we have not vetted through all of the alternates yet, but the team's gone through them now and looked at them to say, yes, we want to do them, and they generally are additional work relative to the mechanical and electrical building systems. So those would be coming, and that's a chunk of dollars there that comes out of our contingency that we have set, but it's ready for authorization, so we'll present that to. So that's another large. On Central. And this kind of goes back of how we manage the GMPs. And I think we're definitely, and some of you guys have seen this, but as newer board members, when we set the GMP with the contractors, and we've done this with SunWest on the branches, on Wood Package 4, and with Kirby on Redmond and Kirby on Central, is that we really try to use the dollars within the GMP first when we're spending money on changes. And so as we did the branches, generally we didn't have to make any increases to SunWest contract until the end of the projects, when we finally used up all of the dollars within. So what I mean by that is sometimes we request a change that by contract is a allowable change order and increase the contract. When they have dollars within their GMP, they use them first instead of us giving them more. With Central, we're at a point where we've used a lot of the funds, the contingency and dollars available in Kirby's contract. And as we were kind of marching down the line here, it's like, okay, I can see that at some point here, we're going to be needing to increase their GMP. That point in time is coming. That's what in September, I do want to talk about that presentation. It would be a request for an increase in sign-in authority for Todd. So that, because I see needing to process change orders later in September and into October and potentially as we go throughout the year. And that's part of where, okay, I either do this now so that a team can keep moving forward. 'Cause I did not want to be a cog in the wheel because I'm not able to deal with it. So, and so I'll have all of that ready to present to you guys, but I didn't want to just say, oh, well, by the way, the first thing you did is through the board, and they're asking for a whole bunch of authorization and not have spoken to from. So it doesn't change the budget. And by that, each of the projects have built-in project contingencies, and so specifically to the central project and construction contingency, when you look at the report, and it's got the contingency breakdown. I think we got about 3.5 million set aside for construction costs. And so it's probably roughly going to be somewhere around maybe one authorization to spend up to X dollars raw contingency as we identify. And it's not like there was a send it all over. It'll be as we need. So we're working closely with Kirby as what are their costs, and we bought Tyson, we categorize every expenditure of why the this owner request, city request, design issue, Kirby's own issue, their use of their contract. So that way we know how we're spending and what we're spending on what. But it will set us up. So it's just something I wanted to let you know because it's likely that we'll have a moving authorization for our movers, which can be really red point as part of our moving process. We've made that budget adjustment previously, and we talked about that, and we're at the point where we'll have their contract. And similarly, the shelving and the furniture contracts for downtown Bend. And so with all of those, it's another big bunch. We did a whole bunch in June. And this will be like that, like probably tighter than dollars. So little heads up, but questions about that. And I know it's kind of something totally new that wasn't in the board back to be prepared for. Mhm.
You refer to GNP. What specifically are you?
That is their the construction contract.
What is GNP?
It's guaranteed maximum trust.
Okay, and yeah, I just. It's so,
It's a or guaranteed.
guarantee. You're talking about, we're gonna increase that guarantee price, and that those funds are gonna.
Yeah, and so, it's something where, as I look at project budgets and I take and I allocate contingency to each of the different projects, I allocate what I believe we will spend. And so we're at a point where we're gonna spend a big chunk of allocate that contingency. Out of contingency up into hard costs to then we formally change order into Kirby's contract. GMP is a bad.
It is, because
Because
it sounds
it's
like
like-
it's set in stone, but it turns out it's.
Right.
Our contract is a very open book. Where any savings, anything left over flows back to the owner to the district. We literally see every penny the contractors are spending. If we want to see a copy of an invoice for any, it's made available to us. And we talk about it, and on their side, they're very open to saying, hey. Instead of just automatically in a traditional sense that you made a change, they're gonna hand you a change order and say. We want more money. Our contractors have looked at this to say, we have this bucket of money, we're gonna go through and we're gonna monitor how we're spending it. And we don't care if it's a owner requested change of scope, we're gonna use the dollars currently available. And if we don't need it anymore, we're ready. If we need more, then we'll assess that and increase it. So we're just getting to that point on Central. And part of it is being a large complex building and project. You know, when you think about it, it's 3 times the complexity of red. And so it's happening earlier than that field of switch.
One last question.
Yeah.
How are the fees for renaming or whoever got them through the Sunwest for the smaller region? What is how is their fee built with that?
So it's,
Cost plus.
it is a cost plus format. And so when we went out on all of the RFPs, select the contractors, there were several things they had to guarantee. One is, what is their percentage fee? And that's their profit and over their costs, their profit. That they would mark up cost of work. And the cost of the work is all the time, all of what it costs to build. So all the costs of subcontractors, material suppliers, whatever they have to buy.
So
They
now
want-
say.
Yeah. It's in that. And same with insurance is locked in, corporate activity tax, that's locked in. So some of those are fixed amounts. Then they have what are called general conditions, which is the cost of their supervision, their staff. And at the time we selected them, we said we want a list of all of the positions that you anticipate for this project. So superintendents and project managers and all of the staffing that we have. And what is their rate? And so we got that as a competitive price. In order to, now some of those were adjusted with schedule times, but for the most part, all of their labor rates. So then it locks in. Now, we do make adjustments in the number of staff. When we see a need, and we did that on Central where we felt as a group that, hey, we need more supervision on this task, and this task, we brought in a couple of specialty superintendents really focus on certain areas. And to do the other component of their work, it's called general requirements, and those are whether it's all temporary facilities and rental and their labor, to clean up labor or general construction labor, support the operation. So those we have locked in labor rates with their people, and then they have estimates of hours for service.
GMP increases from the contingency. That related specifically to increase in material costs, increase in subcontractor costs, or does it also invalid increase in their own labor force costs too?
It can be all of this.
Okay.
It truly is, when you think about everything that we do. Some of those, so, we've gone through the life of Central, trying to set things where things occurred, so that affects labor. With, for the most part, a lot of it is subcontractor costs and scope is probably close to 85 to 90% of all. The general contractor's real cost of their operation and their fee stuff is in order of 10 to 15%. So most of the cost is really driven by costs coming from sites and to operate things.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, it was something I wanted to talk about tonight because I need one to help make sure all of you understood what we're doing and how we're doing it, how we manage it, and also what's being asked of the board when we ask for authorizations. And So this would be one, these are all gonna come up, these authorizations, it's next month, so. It's important to share with you, let you know, and that way it's not dropped off.
Appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. So that was everything I had on that, other than I think we have one authorization. You're all right, Ann, I'll go ahead and launch into that one.
Yes, please.
So this is the early learning fabricator, so everything. Chandra. Johnson.
Chandra.
Chandra. I think I called her. Yes. So this is actually Figure Plant, who's our fabricator of all of those early components and elements for downtown Bend. And so when we finalize that, we've worked through it. It's actually substantially under budget because there was one point we were gonna have a play structure in there and the district decided to remove that. So that brought it with them. And so, you know, as we go through with a lot of our vendors, so like then we went out and selected them for district wide because we wanted everything to be identical, interchangeable, and we couldn't do that with multiple vendors. So it's been a good program, but it also lets us really hone in on our pricing early on and know that, hey, we can hold to our budget. We know this play unit costs this much and this one costs this much, and then there's some unique ones on each of these. But this really is our last early learning major item, and so the cost of that is about $550,000. Be the contract portion that we're increasing. They have a little bit in their contract already for some of the preliminary work, design work, and estimate. I did set the authorization at $600,000. That allows us minor changes as we go through, and you know, if we see something that we want to amend or change in component, we were doing how we're doing that allows that authorization. It's really, otherwise, my mind was straightforward, but questions on your side?
Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
To approve the authorization of 600,000 for the early learning fabrication for the downtown Bend library.
Okay, and do you want to specify the end of that motion, the fabricator, technical design, prototype surfaces, component fabrication and installation?
You knew there was a cheat sheet here.
Yeah, there's so many words there, but we want to cover all our bases.
I move to provide the library director with funding authority up to 600,000 for the downtown Bend library early fabricator, technical design, prototype services, component fabrication and installation.
Okay, thank you. These sample motions are sometimes extremely helpful because do I hear a second? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, Todd, monitoring management practices.
All right. So this is one of the board policies that we monitor on an annual basis. Management practices. And one, you've had a chance to read it, I will, but I'm gonna kind of walk through some of it. As the policy states, the library director may not cause or allow management practices to occur which do not reflect contemporary management best practices and legal requirements, and may not cause or allow management practices to be applied inconsistently in a manner that is to the detriment of an employee or employees. Accordingly, I will not fail to implement collaborative management practices that support the finding of trust throughout the organization. And some of the things that we've been doing around this are monthly in-service meetings. Have been really a really important part for us, especially in this time of change, to connect with staff. Gather feedback, go through education on new systems and procedures. We also, every 2 years, we go through an employee engagement survey to gather information from staff. How are things going? How are they feeling? And we just did that last fall. And if you're interested, I can give you more information on it. I did report it to the board last fall. But it's an interesting way to come see where people are and how they feel. We also have an employee advisory committee, with the goal of increasing feedback and finding ways for people to I attend all those meetings. So a chance, for people to get information out, not just let it go one way. Another really interesting piece that we started doing in 2023 is it's feedback training. And it's not just so that we get feedback, but it's training for staff on how to give feedback to each other, to a coworker, and to really encourage that culture of doing that and giving people the skills to do it. And I highlight that. While I was writing this, I was watching a group of our new staff coming in for their training. So we continually update this training for staff. And when we do the trainings for new staff, we also operate to anybody who wants to be fresh. So a new one this year, and I'm going to report on in my library news, is over the last 3 months I've met with a employee for really to specifically talk about our workplace culture and what we can do to improve it. And then last week I held a customer service workshop with representatives of our public service specialists, talking about our point of service, extra service model, and the report split. And that's those are the highlights. There's many other things we do. There's a lot we're doing. We've shifted to, we're in the middle of shifting to Microsoft Teams, which has really opened up communication for us and the ability to post information and have people in the moment, send responses, ask questions, chat. That's a piece that's so far, as we've just started on that journey, is already seeing some great benefits to that. We definitely have a lot more to learn and develop culture. And feel free to stop me and ask questions. 2, fail to operate without written personnel rules that can be formed to contemporary management practices and legal requirements. And I mentioned here we have an employee handbook that all staff read, they sign off, any change you make, they sign off on that. It's included in your orientation binder. So you can always, it's a great way just to see the breadth of everything and all resources that are available to staff. Grievance process will provide aggrieved employees the opportunity to appeal decisions on alleged violations to the board. The employee handbook outlines that policy. Also, our union contract outlines that as well. And there's force it. One, it goes to the supervisor if they there, it's on to me, then my responsibility it's on to the board, and then there's now in the union contract a 4th one that's the arbitration. In the last 26 years, it's gone to the board twice. That would be 1 month after another. So we had a blip about 10 years ago, but that process. Discriminating against any staff member for the expression of dissent within district protocols. We do not permit a policy any form of retaliation, especially. Fail to acquaint staff with their rights under this policy. And again, we go over all of our rules, well, rules of orientation. Staff members read and sign the employee handbook. And we sign them as we go. So my conclusion is we are in compliance with the management budgets. Implementation policy.
Okay, this is as we just were coming out of all of our board orientations. This is a great example of the shall not fail to
Yes.
language. Do people have any questions or comments for Todd on his interpretation of this monitoring report?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Talked about training staff on feedback and getting feedback in a really constructive manner. Was there any training done on receiving feedback?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, same.
yeah. I feel like the younger generation very at wants feedback, utilizes it, and I feel like as we move along the age spectrum, that feedback feels like a really good thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
that you prepare them to receive it too.
Yes, yeah, the guy was saying, let's prepare ourselves.
For sure.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the library is in compliance with executive limitation policy 3D.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
That's a second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Now we're at the section of library news. Todd, what news do
Okay.
you have?
I have lots of news, so my apologies, usually this is a short section, you make it a little longer. The first one I want to talk about is a recap of my conversations with. I actually ended up meeting with 112 out of 150 employees. Didn't get them all. And that was 45 sessions over 3 months, lasting an hour each. So it was a significant investment in our staff's time and my time. And I'm really glad I did. And I am reporting to staff tomorrow or in service at the beginning of the morning about my results. This is an hour-long talk. I'm going to condense it down to 5 minutes. So feel free if you have follow-up questions. There's a lot more than I'm skipping. But the first thing I'll say is to put it in context, we went through an incredible 5 years, starting with COVID. COVID really did a number on all of us. It required us to separate our staff out and say who was essential, who wasn't. It required a lot of angst around opening up buildings and trying to serve the public at the same time as we're trying to keep people safe. And part of that is for management, leadership, and staff that weren't frontline is we purposely stayed away from staff because we didn't want to be one additional person that could possibly affect it. And then the harm from that is that real distance. And then we move right into the building construction process. For the last 4 years, it has been full tilt. One building after another, a lot of design, a lot of taking up management and leadership time to focus on these buildings, time that we could have spent working with our staff, being alongside our staff. And that is an issue today. Is something that just now that things are finally kind of dying down in the buildings, we have time to connect people, and in a time of change, you need that. So here are my takeaways. And number one, and I've been watching the TV show Poker Face. I don't know if anybody's seen that. It's where the main character can tell when people, and when they lie, she says bullshit. And so when I say this, in my mind, I say bullshit, and that is my number one impression is to a person across the district, everybody is dedicated to the mission of the library. They are so focused on providing the best service to our customers, to making sure our community is well supported. That it is really on to see. I shouldn't have been surprised by that, but just to see in every single person. And a challenge for us is when you have 115 people that are so passionate about things. We can get to big arguments about whether this pin should be here or here. One thing, Myra Korn just left us at the end of July, and one thing she left was a gift to us were a bunch of photos of staff in the last 4 years. And it was incredible to see how much they've accomplished. Opening buildings, celebrating with the public, being there, serving food to our community members, at events. It's just awe-inspiring. So that is the exciting news about all this, is no matter whatever issues we have, we're gonna solve. We have stuff to do. So things that people are really seeing, and kind of in top order, but not exactly. Leadership, visibility, and the people really wanting to see more of the management, making connections with them. I kind of talked about some of that separation. And really, we are the ones that are making decisions that impact their daily lives. And they would, one, just like in the connections with us, and two, also be there to see what impacts those products. So that's one that I am actually going to be working on in a couple of areas with the management. I'll probably report back on some of that to you, but I've already got some things that they would. Feedback, we're talking about feedback. We ask for a lot of feedback from our staff. And the real sense from staff is that we ask for it, they give it, and then nothing happens, or we just go and do something. And that was really eye-opening for me, because I know from my end that for all our building designs, for everything we do, we've asked for that feedback, and we go and we talk about it, and we debate it, and we make changes. We don't always do exactly what people want, but it really influences what we're looking at. And we have a lot of work to do to close that feedback loop. And a big one is really timing. A good example of the reason I'm reporting this back to our staff tomorrow is I didn't want to hear from them, wait 9 months and then say, here's what we did. So we have a lot of work to do there. Also, a really good insight that I got from this ad when I thought about it was targeted feedback. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll send out a survey and send it to all 115 people. And so being much more conscious now about, hey, we're actually really interested in this one area, and it's really mostly impacts 20 people. Let's go ask those 20 people how they. Decision making and explaining the why. I've got a lot of input about, we understand that you're not always going to do what we want, but we want to know the why behind it. So we have a lot of work to do there to make sure that we're really kind of closing that decision loop and saying, we've done this, here's why. Also listing, like, here's what we considered. Because in conversations with staff, you can always see it kind of deflates things when I'm able to talk to them and say, yeah, that thing that you are talking about, I have the same concerns. And I thought about these 3 things, but also these 5 things are also affected and we went this way. And part of that is really being able to not just do that, but along with the why are talking about what considerations we had, what are the timelines? When are we going to be doing this? When will we be checking it with you along? And I think that's a big piece, that was really gonna be fair with that. And when will we reassess this to see, is this working, is it? Communication and transparency. Really, that is something just in these conversations is really kind of eye-opening. It's been much more intentional, especially just in my communications about where we are, what's going on right now. So many moves are coming up. We've opened up a Teams channel where every week I'm just listening. I kind of got this from our meetings with the contractors. I do a 1 month look ahead and here's everything that's coming in the next month. And I'm hoping that part starts off. The point of service, customer service model, I'm gonna tie that in because I did have that meeting on the 6th. I'm gonna come back to that, but it's so don't forget that. Training and support, a lot of requests for more training. We have new systems, new procedures. We really like to support that and also support the technology that goes that. And here's one that I have no solution for right off the bat, but it's come up a lot. Living in Central Oregon, the cost of living in Central Oregon is high, especially for our frontline staff that there's real concerns about affordability and being able to live and afford housing on the salaries they make. And again, part of that is just it's the living in Central Oregon. But it's something that I definitely wanted to make sure that you're aware of because it's something that our staff struggles with. So our community librarians, we have talked a lot about the incredible work our community librarians do out in the community. It's something we intentionally strive for, and they've done an excellent job, and we've seen the results of some of that. But some of the things that we are missing with that are the connections for them to be able to have with staff, especially our frontline staff, being able to support them. They miss that support. And then also for the librarians, that sense not really being connected and valued. And so that's a real piece that we are working on right now. We're going to do discussions with our community librarians about how can we make improvements on that so that there's this stuff. Latino services and Spanish language speakers. The board about 2 years ago really put an emphasis on making sure that we're putting more efforts towards serving the Latino community, and just the board making that commitment really helped us out in our budgeting. We were able to start allowing pay differentials for people that speak Spanish. We were able to increase significantly the number of Spanish speakers that are frontline workers. We also were able to add specialists in their collection development, in their programming, and marketing, because we really felt like we needed to integrate this into everything that we do, not just have somebody that speaks Spanish when you walk in, but make sure that everything fits that. So the good news is we've done a lot of work there, and it's one of those things when you put more effort into something, then you start to realize how far you have to go. And I think that's where we are right now, is we've made some great inroads, but then we're seeing so much more that we could be doing. At our in-service tomorrow, we're going to be, we've started a Latino community engagement work group. That's really been looking at these services and digging into what the needs are, and I'm excited to do that tomorrow, where we're going to work with staff, talk about what we see. And then the last one is, which I think is a great one. It's a real desire to make connections across the district. As director, I get to go everywhere and I get to meet everybody. And like I started off with, how engaged everybody is. That having that affinity with somebody that works from behind and I live in sisters and really, I don't have solutions for that, but there's a real desire to be able to travel around, spend a day working in another place, and I think that will be really key for us, finding ways to get people connected. So that was a lot. I thank you for taking the time. I just distilled 45 hours into that. But that for me was, I mean, that was a big piece. We've got a lot of healing to do based on the last 5 years, but I think this is a really good start for that. And again, and we have a great base to work. If I came in here and I found that half people just didn't want to work here and was getting a paycheck, we'd have a problem. And we don't. Any questions on that? Yes, I did, and then the next thing, kind of fitting in with this, we did a customer service workshop and. A few months ago, we had staff that sent letters to the board talking about not being happy with the conditions of working with the planning service model, wanting to see changes. And that kind of led off this whole discussion in the first place about what is happening, how are you feeling? And then at the time I said, I'm going to set up this session where we sit and we talk about what's worked, what's not. See. And in that, I had representatives from each branch who are public service professional working with the public, some of them supervisors, and we spent an afternoon digging into just that. What's working, what do you like about it, what do you not like about it, what's changed, and at the end, giving me some recommendations with the goal in mind of me taking those and setting some direction about where we'll go next. So that's just fresh, just got some great recommendations from the staff and kind of digging into those. We looking at those and coming back to the staff at our September 11th in service, talking about what we'll do with that. But I thought it was a really great model to find ways to kind of empower staff to be able to give input on a specific issue that I would love to see us do in the future where we set up times where we're going to look at this service. We don't have to have a committee that looks at it for 2 years, but just kind of in check. So just a couple of things that have been happening around this, it kind of fits in with our monitoring report. Other things, this is exciting news. We got was it Build Better Oregon award for coming for the Redmond Library. And this one means probably more to library staff and anybody. Every year, American Libraries Magazine comes out with their design showcase. And in it, they highlight, last year they highlighted 12 libraries across the country that do renovations and designs. And next month, coming out, they will be highlighting the Redmond Library.
Oh.
Yeah. So for those of us that have had to sit and look at other libraries, witness for 30 years, and if we have one of ours in there, it's a big thing. Yeah. But we're getting extra copies of the magazine to share with you. So, yeah. Oh, this is most important for Laura, Aaron, and Michelle. Tomorrow's in service, we shifted the time by 15 minutes. So Laura, your session is 12:45 to 1:45. And then Aaron and Michelle, that's gonna go from 2 to 3. Luckily, and thank Lori, she caught that. I think I gave you time to about 15 minutes earlier, so.
You should have just kept it, guys.
Yeah, yes, you are welcome to come early, but that's where we are with that.
And then
It is in Redmond, yes.
And the doors are locked, and so should we not text you?
Both, I should do everything.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
If you come to the north side, you'll want to see.
And the north side is the one up with the
Yeah.
parking lot, yeah, yeah, people will see. Try not to look like you're an angry customer, just want to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
The customers.
Just my turn.
and my last thing, which I'm very excited about, is we are looking to start setting up chances for you to tour the Central Library, starting sometime in September. I will be on vacation for the next 2 weeks, so probably when I get back, I'll start checking in on times to do that. I'll probably try to find 1 or 2 occasions so that you have opportunities, and if you can't make it in September, we will have other opportunities to go. But it's kind of fun to see it early, get an appreciation for what's going on. I'm excited that we're to that point. And that is news. Sorry, I was.
All right. I got so excited during the library showcase announcement that I lost the video feed, but that's okay. We're almost to the end. Michelle, do you have any foundation news?
I do, yes, and I think that Todd's working on your speaker right now. The Library Foundation Board met on July 15th and was our first meeting moving into our new fiscal year. So we had some changes in terms of board representation. It was our first one without Brian Bergler, who's like a lifer. So it's just kind of the start of a new season. We've got new people in different positions too. I think that one of the things to share with you is just a focus that the foundation board is going to have in terms of looking at the year ahead and what kind of programming we're going to support for the library. We're not going to host an author event for the coming year. That's in relation to our displacement last year with the Vans Auditorium being entered. And so with that, we tried kind of different smaller venues. We have to keep in mind what the budget that we have to spend when you have smaller venues, you can sell less tickets. And so then you can't pay as much for speakers to come. And so Chantal did an amazing job kind of like shifting all the coconuts around, and we really focused on more local. It was a great year. Looking at the coming year, we decided that instead of short get together, so take a year of pause and then do a big rollout of author in the following spaces to maybe to coordinate with the central branch opening some kind of big and make it fun and exciting and big too. So that's one of the things that we talked about. And then another thing is our fundraising. So our fundraising, one of our fundraising focuses for the coming fiscal year, again, going to be towards supporting any funding that is necessary for capital campaigns, but then also kind of shift towards the endowment and the possibility of building an endowment. And so we've got some, we're in early stages of that. So we've got some. Oh my God, we missed you with that scene. But things change, so change is good. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? That's it.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot of news. Thanks for keeping us up to date. Now we're to the point of the meeting that we used to call self-review of the meeting, and we kind of had a discussion last month about more for the good of the order, library-related interactions that we've had over the last month, in addition to comments about the meeting, if you wish to make those, whatever is on your mind at the end of the meeting. Michelle, would you like to start?
I think what I would like to take a minute to just appreciate is the onboarding that Laura and I have had for the last month, and we have taken time to meet with so many people, and all of you have taken this time to meet with us and spoon feed us a little bit, and it helped so much. I don't know if you have done this in the past. I don't think that we and Aaron maybe got the same onboarding that we are getting, but I really, really appreciate the thought that it's been that everyone spent. I feel just a little bit more in the know, and I know I still have a lot to learn, but I appreciate it. So, yes.
Thank you. That's great. That's great to hear. And apologies to Aaron and Betsy. I apologize that you didn't get more orientation. It was kind of a different set of circumstances when you came on. Let's see. Laura, would you like to go next?
I was gonna say that, I appreciated so much the orientation. And it really has changed, I mean, just within a month.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Betsy?
Let's see. I just want to say thanks for the article that you forwarded to us about the communications team. I really enjoyed reading that, actually. You shared it with a couple folks in my life that I enjoy it just as much. I just want to appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Aaron?
I just want to acknowledge Aaron Hiles' the work in the weekly teen Dungeons and Dragons Club that has been happening at each branch. And the opportunities that was provided for teams to get together and have a space to create community with each other, but also just to learn the game, know experience necessary to create characters and have a chance to play. My team that has been something that we have had to change our entire schedule around. But the amount of work that has gone into that programming is that should be.
That's great. I think it's really a great thing for us to be out in the branches and knowing, being present at programs. I think that that's something that is really vital to our understanding of all the things that the district does, to have firsthand knowledge of what's going on in our buildings. So that's a great report. My recent library interactions is I had a state library board meeting earlier in the month, or at the end of last month, in Pendleton. And of local note, I mean, obviously the state is dealing with the loss of IMLS funding and all the things that are happening on the federal level, which that's an ongoing saga. But more locally, Grant County is considering with stopping funding for their library in John Day. So they had the first hearing on that, and there will be a second hearing in October, I believe, and they're really strapped for money. But at the first hearing that they had, I think they had over 200 people show up in support of having a public library in their county. And there was a lot of really spirited, good testimony. So that's a good thing to know about. But that's kind of happening in our back door. Yeah, and so thank you to everybody for your participation and for putting up with me being remote tonight. But I hope that the orientations did help a lot, but even though you have been oriented, still feel free to ask questions at any time. Because I know there's just a lot to take in when you first get on the board, and we're happy to slow down and define terms and answer questions at any time during the meeting, after the meeting, in between meetings. Just reach out and we'd be happy to try to help. So Yeah, I think it was a great meeting. And with that, if nobody has anything else, I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.